So get done with high school and and I'm working just a regular job, work for Pep Boys as an installer. And then a friend of mine, Scott, which we'd done a couple things together and even done some television.
He built some of the wildest cars on television, but then disappeared without warning. This is the unbelievable story of Aaron Kaufman's rise, fall, and ultimate comeback. The shop opens before the heat has a chance to lift off the concrete. A coffee cup clinks on a steel bench. A welding torch spits a quick hello to the day. A flathead screwdriver rattles in a pocket like a lucky coin. If you listen closely, you can still hear the rhythm that made a quiet fabricator into the heartbeat of a global car show. For years, Aaron Kaufman was the hands, the head, and the quiet voice that turned wild television ideas into machines that actually moved. Then, one morning, he was gone. People wanted fireworks. They wanted betrayal in high definition. They wanted a door slamming and a line that trended. The real story fits who he is a lot better. He left to build the thing he had been sketching in his head since long before cameras showed up. He left to work on problems that television deadlines will never solve. He left to chase races that chew up parts and to build parts that help good people survive those races. He did not detonate. He stepped away on purpose toward a life that lets craft drive the story. Roll back to why Aaron even mattered on Fast and Loud. On camera, he did not sell, he solved. He measured twice and cut once. He looked at a pile of parts and saw the interference no one had mentioned yet. He raised an eyebrow when someone suggested it was pretty oversafe. He did not gild his answers. He had a calm that comes from hours nobody sees, the kind with metal dust in your eyelashes and a notebook with grease fingerprints on the pages. That was the brand before there was a brand. Inside Gas Monkey, he acted as the translator between a vision and a vehicle. Throw a wild concept on the table, and he would quietly turn it into motor mounts, pinion angles, steering geometry, and a parts list that made sense. He loved the work. He respected the platform. He respected the audience too. But there is a friction no camera can hide forever. Television wants fast. Real fabrication wants right. You can meet in the middle for a long time. Sooner or later, the middle starts to feel like a place that steals something you cannot get back. When he walked out, it was not a stunt. It was a choice. He had a list most of us will never see. Projects that do not fit inside an episode. Parts nobody had engineered for platforms that deserved better. A race calendar scribbled with events that break trucks and teach mechanics. It reads like a roadmap written in pencil, with room to erase, redraw, and improve. To do that list justice, he needed a shop with his name on the door and his standards in the rafters. He called it ArcLight Fabrication. If you speak the language of shops, the name makes you smile. An ArcLight is what you bring to a dark corner when you need to see the truth. Aaron set up in Dallas and aimed that light at a tribe that had waited long enough. Classic Ford F-100 owners love the look and fight the ride. They want an old face and a new spine. ArcLight went to work. Cross members that put modern front suspension under old bones. Brake packages that make stopping feel like a plan. Steering that does not wander just because a road has a crown. He was not trying to reinvent every wheel. He was trying to give thousands of good trucks a second life that did not punish their owners. ArcLight never felt like a catalog warehouse. It felt like a standard. You could hear it at the counter. You could see it on the floor. Bolt on does not mean slapped together. It means engineered, tested, repeatable. It means that a person with a decent set of tools and real patience can build something that drives like a decision, not a dare. Aaron and his team burned time on fixtures and jigs, so customers would not have to burn weekends fixing mistakes. They changed hole positions by half a hair because a better pedal feel is not theoretical. It is whether you rear-end someone on a wet day. Then the itch came back, the one that turns builders into drivers. When you can build it, you want to break it in the right places. You want to learn from the failure you expected and the one you did not. Aaron pointed his compass at events where there is no edit button, short-course sprints that demand traction and self-control, long-distance off-road tests where your plan will meet a rock the size of a suitcase at 40 miles an hour, structured chaos with tech inspection on Thursday, and humility on Sunday. Television called again, and this time the pitch had room for broken parts and honest outcomes. Shifting Gears with Aaron Kaufman was not a relaunch of what he left. It was a travel log of hard things. Pick a platform. Build it up past what anyone expects. Take it to an arena that hates shortcuts. Own the result. The projects were ambitious and messy in the right ways. Timelines were still real, but the payoff was not a flip or a sale. It was a check mark next to a dream on that old notebook list. You saw him try to make old iron do new tricks. You saw a shop chase geometry across a week of late nights. You saw a truck limping back with everything rattling and a team laughing about it because sometimes that is the only way to tell the truth. He was not playing for likes. He was chasing that flicker you see in a real driver's eyes when a machine does a thing it has no right to do because someone thought ahead and welded honesty into it. Between the on-screen builds, he did something quieter. He went to work. Not the kind that comes with a sizzle reel. The kind with shipping labels and warranty calls. He poured hours into improving ArcLight's core pieces. He listened to customers who do not talk like influencers. He revised what needed revising. He told some people no. That is how you know a shop has a backbone. No, that combo will not do what you think at highway speed. No, that timeline will not deliver a truck you will be proud to drive. No, we will not sell you a part if your plan could hurt you. There was another series too. It did not feature shiny paint, and that was the point. Aaron Needs a Job dropped him in the deep end of heavy industry. Rail yards, quarries, hangars, ship decks, places where metal does not pose for pictures. It earns its keep. He worked a shift with people who use wrenches like verbs. He asked good questions. He learned how machines break when the customer is a city, or a river, or a runway. He came home with dirt under his nails and a bigger respect for the way the world stays up. Why did he seem to vanish after that? Because fame only feeds a builder so long. After that, you want outcomes. You want the part you designed to make a stranger smile in the rain at 70 miles an hour. You want a customer to call 6 months after an install and say, "This thing changed the way I feel about my own truck." Those outcomes require quiet. They require shutting the door and letting the shop breathe. Aaron chose that quiet on purpose. If you follow the right breadcrumbs, you can still see the work. A frame on a fixture so square it could shame a ruler. A cross member with a subtle notch you would miss if you did not know what you were looking at. Shots from SEMA, where the loudest thing is the cluster of builders standing around him not asking for selfies, asking for drawings. The conversation sounds like a different kind of stardom. What did you set your caster target for a truck that still sees highway shoulders? How did you keep the steering from fighting the road crown on a lowered setup? Why that caliper for that rotor? And what did you have to change to keep pad wear even? He answers. Not in bullet points. In stories that start with where we messed up last year and end with where we put the hole on the 5th revision. He does not do mystique. He does the method. He teaches without teaching because someone once did that for him. He will show you the trick if you show up humble and ready to measure. He will tell you to clean your bench before you blame the part. He will ask for your ride height before he answers your geometry question. Underneath the beard and the pace and the jokes, he believes in craft like a farmer believes in seasons. There are no shortcuts that do not take something from you later. A perfect weld is not a flex. It is a promise to your future self. A bracket with clean edges that clears everything at full droop is not a style. It is the difference between a good day and a toe strap. The better you get, the more you appreciate the boring stuff. Aaron is a true believer in the boring stuff that makes a beautiful thing survive. Then life threw everyone a test that had nothing to do with camber. Supply chains got weird. Shipping times slipped. Powder coaters took longer. Whole pallets stalled in places that do not appear on a map. ArcLight did what grown shops did. It was adjusted. It said fewer yeses. It refused to compromise the promise that made people call in the first place. If that meant some builds took longer or some product drops got pushed, so be it. That is part of why some people thought he disappeared. He did not disappear. He turned the volume down so the work could stay loud where it counts. The driving never left. He has mechanical sympathy. He listens for a new vibration and can tell you which corner is talking. He feels a brake pedal and knows whether the bias is in the neighborhood. He can praise a setup that fails honestly. And he is comfortable telling a friend that something needs to go back on the lift. That is why other fabricators trust him in the driver's seat. He is hard to impress, quick to credit the right person, and careful enough to bring a machine back in one piece so that the next test means something. He built a customer too. Not a celebrity customer, a real one. A person with an old truck and a job who wants to tow a small trailer on weekends. A person who loves a classic look and refuses to accept a ride that skates over bumps like a grocery cart. A person who can wrench on a Saturday and who needs the core pieces to be right so their winter in the garage feels like progress. ArcLight became a lighthouse for that person. Call in, and someone who has burned their knuckles will answer. Ask around the community, and you hear similar stories. He showed up at a small event and spent an hour just listening to a guy describe a vibration. He pointed a kid to a better material for a bracket and saved them a week. He bought a round for a table of welders and asked how their backlogs were. Fame made him visible. Craft keeps him welcome. He is one of those rare people who can walk into a booth and talk to the booth, not the brand. That carries weight. So, what really happened to Aaron Kaufman? Here is the answer most people never get, because it does not fit inside a headline. He kept going, but he changed the pace so the work could stay honest. He stopped playing the game that counts episodes and started counting outcomes. He moved his name from the lower third to the quality control sheet. He is still building. He is still racing. He is still laughing at the moments that would make other people panic. He just moved the camera out of the way. You do not need a dramatic return to the old set for this story to feel complete. He does not owe nostalgia anything. He owes the machines and the people who drive them. The second half of this story is where the specifics live. The builds that nearly broke the team and taught them how to break less the next time. The race attempts that did not finish and why that might have been the best lesson of the season. The shop drama that changed how he hires and who he trusts on a customer car. The parts that are coming next, and how they hint at a future for platforms the industry ignored too long. Midnight at ArcLight feels like a heartbeat. The big fans whisper. A tape measure snaps shut and echoes like a drum. A whiteboard is full of arrows and numbers. There is a coffee ring halfway around the phrase test again. That is the plan in 4 syllables. Test again. Aaron walks slowly when he is reading a problem. He keeps one hand in his pocket and one hand tracing imaginary lines in the air as if the truck is see-through and he can point at the interference before anyone else can. The crew knows the rhythm. Listen. Try, fail clean. Change one thing, try again. He is not allergic to mistakes. He is allergic to guessing. Shifting gears had given him a taste of the kind of trouble he wanted more of. Build a machine for an arena that does not care who you are. The first shakedown laps do not ask for a selfie. They ask if your caster is in the neighborhood or if your steering will shake itself to death in the first 10 minutes. The episodes took viewers along for the rides that worked and the rides that limped back with every panel buzzing. Between takes, he was cataloging lessons he could bring home. Race days make better parts if you pay attention. The shop faced a challenge every TV famous operation faces. Fame pushes you to hire too fast. Fabrication punishes that in a week. Aaron learned to hire for method, not just talent. He can teach a patient person to weld cleaner. He cannot teach a flashy person to be patient. He wrote it on a sticky note and stuck it to a drawer. Pride in process. He banned the phrase "good enough" from his floor. Good enough will strand a customer. Good enough will hide a crack until the wrong mile. The team shifted. Some left because their love was building for camera days. The ones who stayed loved building for the day after a customer picks up and drives 2 states home. Production manufacturing is not a television montage. It is torquey specs and jigs and fixtures and repeatability. Aaron changed ArcLight from a brilliant hot rod bay into a brilliant small factory without letting it become a soulless one. He built fixtures that take the guessing out of a Tuesday. He color-coded bins. He wrote instructions in plain language and asked a kid in the back to try them cold. If the kid got lost, the instructions were wrong. He changed suppliers when delays stacked. He called and sat with machinists to tweak hole sizes so powder coat thickness would not turn a slip fit into a hammer fit. He treated returns like gold because each one is a lesson if you listen before you defend. The breakthrough everyone saw was hidden in the way the first kits went out and came back. ArcLight's front cross members cut into the time a driveway builder burns on measuring and shim stack guessing. They tucked modern coilovers and control arms under 1967 to 1979 Ford F-100 frames without forcing owners to hack the identity out of their trucks. Geometry was the quiet hero. Set anti-dive, so the nose does not bury itself against the bumper in a panic stop. Hunt bump steer until it is a rumor instead of a habit. Get a scrub radius in the neighborhood so the steering does not feel like a shopping cart at speed. None of that looks cool in a photo. All of it feels like magic at 75 on a highway slab that used to make a driver white-knuckle the wheel. He caught a lot of F-100 owners where they stood. Some wanted Crown Victoria, front ends grafted in because that had become a folk solution. Aaron did not dunk on the idea. He made it safer. He designed parts to correct geometry quirks and track width problems that came along for the ride when people did those swaps in a driveway with hand tools and hope. He fixed the distance between mounts. He gave adapters that made braking systems act like a modern system instead of a polite suggestion. He did not preach purity. He built a path from where people were to where they wanted to be. Discs and calipers were only part of it. Steering mattered just as much. Rack position, inner tie rod length, idler hardness. Those details decide if a lowered classic tracks like a Thought or hunts every crown in the road. Aaron sweated those parts. He test drove with a notebook and a pen on a string. Stop, right, drive, stop, right. He stopped caring if a camera thought that was boring. He cared if the person who bought the kit would still be smiling when the weather turned and the rain made the freeway honest again. Customers started calling with better stories. A father and son rebuilt a long bed together over a winter. They did not have a lift. They had patience. They followed the steps. They sent a photo from the side of a 2-lane road with a mountain in the background and a caption that read, "The truck drives like a promise now." Another call came from a driver who towed a small vintage camper and had braced for sway and disaster at crosswinds. The new setup swallowed the wind. He told them his wife stopped asking him to slow down on bridges. That is how you measure impact without a spreadsheet. ArcLight got choosy. They decided what they would not build. There is money in being everything to everyone. There is a reputation for being essential to a tribe. They chose the tribe. They stayed in Ford Truckland because the need was there and the love was thick. They left other platforms to other brands who had already built those roads. If you heard someone complain that Aaron should have thrown parts at every classic, you heard someone who has never stood in front of a whiteboard and decided what to protect. Television invitations kept coming, loud ideas with splashy episode arcs. He said no with kindness. He appeared where it made sense for the shop. He still walked the halls at big industry shows, SEMA Supplier Summits, small F-Series gatherings where a parking lot is full of trucks that survived decades of owners and weather. He chose panels where the topic was method. He stood in rooms where the chairs had backs and the questions had grease under their nails. He let other people chase neon. A day in Aaron's life looked nothing like a trailer. Mornings were quiet and mechanical. Floor sweepers do their thing while he warms up with small tasks. He sets an alignment rig and checks a bubble level for the third time, because the second time did not feel right. He answers a shipping question with better software instead of a faster speech. He walks past the office and asks for a list of calls from customers who sound confused. He takes those calls in the afternoon when the shop noise calms down so he can hear the tone in someone's voice and fix the real problem instead of the one they wrote in an email. Test drives remain sacred. He prefers back roads that turn rough for a stretch. He likes railroad crossings because they tell him if the rear wants to dance. He likes cloverleaf on-ramps because they tell him if a corner entry feels like trust or like a dare. He lets the trucks talk and he listens. A clunk on weight transfer is a conversation. A twitch at steady throttle is a story. He brings those stories back to the shop in muscle memory and makes small changes that add up fast over a year. Racing did not vanish either. He tested a short course setup that looked confident, standing still and skittish under throttle. He found the mismatch. He changed spring rates and a sway bar setting and added gussets where he suspected flex. He went back out. Lap times did not need a chart to tell him they dropped. The truck sounded more honest. The tires sang less. The steering wheel stopped acting like a storyteller at the wrong moments. He did not brag. He put the changes on paper and saved them, then built those lessons into parts where appropriate. He got wiser about collaboration. There are shops in every city with a brilliant welder and a pile of orders. He partnered where it made sense, letting a trusted fabricator build parts to ArcLight spec under ArcLight supervision. He built quality gates in where it hurt and where it helped. Laser cut one week does not promise laser cut next week if you do not hold a vendor accountable. He learned to keep contracts simple, pay on time, and leave no room for misunderstandings. The shop got steadier when partners knew what to expect. The mentorship part of his life grew without press releases. A local school asked if he would come talk to kids who did not care about textbooks, but could not stop tinkering with mini bikes and go-karts. He showed up in a hat and a plain shirt and told the truth. Clean your bench. Learn to read a caliper. Respect your own patience. Ask the dumb question fast and fix it while it is small. The kids laughed when he told stories about parts that failed right in front of a crowd. They did not laugh when he explained why the failures that happen privately, in time to prevent harm, are the ones that make you good. He shook 100 hands and went back to work. On the digital side, he let someone else handle the posts most days. The captions got simpler. The photos got more useful. The comments were filled with real questions. He answered a few and let the crew answer the rest. Followers who wanted gossip wandered away to chase something shinier. The ones who wanted geometry stayed and brought their friends. He built a small audience that felt like a shop meeting, not a fan club. What is next is the question everyone asks too soon. Aaron will not promise platforms casually. He will tell you what his notebook says out loud. Likely additions extend the Ford truck family tree. Broncos, late 70s and early 80s F-Series that need help and have the same soul as their older brothers. Maybe a look at modern drivetrains tucked under classic skins in a way that respects how a frame flexes and how torque arrives. He is pragmatic about new tech. He will not become an evangelist for electric conversions without doing his own math. He will not dismiss them either. He wants to know how to make a heavy battery play nice with vintage sheet metal and a frame designed when roads were different. That is not a press release. That is winter's work. He is cautious about growth. He turned down a chance to double headcount because he did not see a way to double training at the same speed. He skipped a big box partnership with shelf space and a headache the size of a county. He said yes to a better ERP system and a better forklift. He treats money like a tool and attention like a fluid. Both need to go where the work is. People still send him videos of old clips. There is the one where a deadline got ugly and the only way out was a joke and a fight with bolts that refused to line up until the third try. There is the one where he looked at a car nobody loved and said, "I think it wants to be fast," and then proved it. He smiles and goes back to the bench because the only clip that matters now is a customer starting a truck and hearing it settle into a steady idle where there used to be chaos. Every shop has a story about a build that nearly broke them. ArcLight had one too. A truck came in on a trailer with a history and 2 boxes of parts that did not like each other. The owner wanted it right more than he wanted it fast. Aaron took the job on a schedule that let him fix the old sins. They found a crack near a frame horn that someone had hidden under paint. They found a steering shaft that fought the firewall every time the suspension cycled. They found a brake line that laughed at the idea of proper routing. The team stripped it to a memory and rebuilt it until it drove like a new thought. It took longer than anyone wished. It taught a handful of lessons the team still uses. It turned a skeptical owner into someone who waves at other F1Os on the highway like they are old friends. He changed how he interviews in the process. A builder applicant got a welding test and a measuring test. Then they got a question. Tell me about a time a mistake you made cost you a weekend. The ones who answered fast and honestly got hired. The ones who blamed the part did not. It was a filter that kept the team solid. He started a shop rule. Everyone on the floor takes 1 customer call a week. A welder, a cleaner, a lead. Not because they are a call center. Because hearing the fear and joy in a customer's voice is the fastest way to understand why the small angled bracket you want to skip today matters down the line. It kept empathy in the room. It made the instructions clearer. It made the returns rarer. Through all of this, the thing that changed least was the way he drives. He settles into a seat like he is making a promise. He listens before he pushes. He pushes with a calculation that looks casual until you see the way his eyes track and the way his hands settle when the truck does a new thing. He is not trying to make a headline. He is trying to read the next paragraph of the story the machine is telling him. That is a way of driving you cannot fake. That is a way of living you cannot fake either. So where did Aaron Kaufman go? He went to the only place that makes sense after a blast of fame. He went back to the bench to build a legacy that rests on metal and memory. He chose the long story over the short one. He chose customers who will still send photos in 5 years. He chose a life where the best compliments happen on the phone in a quiet office when a stranger says thank you without an audience. He chose to be a builder in a world that thinks it wants more builders on camera. He is not hiding. He is here, under the lights, counting, measuring, cutting, welding, laughing, asking, driving, and changing his mind when the facts change. You do not have to believe any of this because I said it. The next time you see an old Ford glide past and the driver looks like they are listening to a favorite song with their hands on the wheel, you will know part of the answer. Somebody cared about geometry. Somebody cared about stopping. Somebody cared about chassis balance. If the parts look like arc lights, you will know a little more. And if you never see a logo, you will still know because the way a machine moves tells the truth about who touched it. The story ends like a scene you have to catch at the right hour. Early morning, doors up. A row of frames hangs like ribs in a whale skeleton. The shop bell rings for a delivery. A grin you recognize comes around a corner, not for a camera, but for a crate that holds a batch of parts that took a month longer than planned and turned out right. He slaps a high five on the nearest palm and makes a note on a clipboard, then disappears into the noise. That is the ending. A builder at work. Like, comment, and share if you still miss Aaron on Fast and Loud. Let's see how many real fans still remember his legendary garage days.